All right, so I'm talking with Jeremy LePage. I had the pleasure of reading his book, Orianna, recently, and I was so taken by it that I reached out through a postcard and he ended up answering, thankfully. And so here I am able to talk to him about this great Canadian book, in my opinion. So, Jeremy, this 1999, you did this quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Um, and it was in your early 20s. So a lot a lot of us seem to start looking at writing books around that age. Or at least get serious about wanting to do it.
hmm
And but what was your transition, I guess, to say that this is something that I am serious about and I want to put it out to the world in a book format? Was there certain things that pushed you to do that? Certain other writers, anything in particular?
Yeah, I didn't, I'd say reading. I wasn't a real reader when I was young. I did kind of like what I had to do in school. I would kind of not really read all the books and then but I did some creative writing here and there. But then so when I was about 18 or 19, I was having a conversation with my uncle. We were somewhere and I was having a difficult time and I didn't really talk to my uncle all that much um, around that time. And we were just talking about what I was going through and it was a short conversation. But then fast forwarding several months, he hired me to do some work on a house he was moving into, which was stripping the wallpaper off every room, which was a horrible job.
Yeah.
And he brought this book with him and an author and who was Hermann Hesse, a German uh, author.
Yeah.
And I read this book and I started reading all of his books. And then I was reading, the next thing I knew, I was reading, I just got really hooked. I wanted to read. And when I do something, I tend to, I don't know, it's a switch turned on and I'm like, I got to do this too. And so I started writing. And the first book was All Who Walk Lightly, which was short stories, which I was even a little younger when I wrote that. And and then when I did Oriana, I don't know, it just happened and it happened pretty fast.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, but it's weird because it seemed like there's the thing that I found fascinating was when you told me how young you were when you wrote it.
Yeah.
Like there's a definite maturity there in the motifs and the symbolism throughout the book that it seems to be something that usually comes later. Like people usually
hmm
have to write for a while to be able to start figuring out how to word that properly and well, you know?
hmm
And you were able to do that, in my opinion, pretty well. That's why I'm saying it. Um, so how what were the like there was very specific moments for me when I was reading it where characters would tell of the future when
Yeah.
the man in the apartment upstairs, he says something about oh, she's breathing fine, when she had whatever pneumonia or she was suffering from some breathing disorder, right?
hmm
um and then the whole bit with the evergreen, um the little pieces of evergreen that
Yeah.
it's the symbol of like everlasting life, or being
hmm
able to survive through the harsh winter, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me a bit about that.
Well, a lot of like when I write, it's very visual in my head. Like I see the things really before um they're images I kind of see. And so with what you're talking about with the evergreen, I also like it has what you're saying, exactly what you're saying, and it also has kind of an attachment to my childhood because I grew up with a lot of white pine around me and stuff like that in nature. So um you tend to see things and you see what you know.
Yeah.
And the one scene that where the two uh, women are walking and then she snips a piece of the branch off. That was, I just saw it in my head, I guess, is um, and then
But
the line,
he says something to her, right? Where it's like he's telling of the future, like, oh, she's gonna be fine.
yeah, I think it's the character John, and he says, you know them. And so you have the author who's the first person, the narrator, is kind of like probably thinking I don't know them and just dismisses it, but it's foreshadowing for sure. And when you read on in the book, you realize that all those symbols do make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, and then particularly like, did you have any Canadian author influence, like Canadian
Um,
writing influence at all?
More visual arts. Like I'm really uh, obsessed with a lot of the early visual artists in Canada.
Yeah,
But I'd say, I mean, I read my share of Canadian literature in school and stuff like that. Um, um, I don't think there's a specific example.
because it's just it was weird. It was really weird to me, like how much this is a very very particular like Canadian. Like you read it,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
this is an obvious Canadian novel. Um,
yeah,
and I get I'm sort of getting from what your intent was is that that may not have been what you actually intended to do. It's just
yeah. That's what was surrounding me.
yeah,
You know, I most of the places mentioned in there. I mean, it's centered around London, Ontario, right? And I moved down there, and my journey kind of began there with things and friends and meeting people, and I met my wife there and things like that. So it's very, um, it's what was around me.
yeah,
Um, and in Ontario, I've always loved going to other towns and stuff like that, and it's just what I was taking in, and I think it went through me that way.
yeah. Okay. And yeah, because you did you do journalism after these or
Yeah.
before after these? Okay.
Yeah, I needed a I needed a paying job.
Yeah. And did any of this the skills that you learned working for the weekly there did that help
Yeah, for
hone your
sure. Especially technically. And but it was funny when I was at the newspaper, which was you know almost or around a couple decades ago now, but I was still like in my 20s, mid to late 20s when I was working in journalism for full time. And I was a better feature writer, writing about people and descriptions and things like that. So I couldn't shake the fiction part because not that I was making stuff up, but um, I was never, and my editors knew that I wasn't a news person,
yeah,
but I could do it and I was good at it. But when I have a feature story, I loved it, and that's what I wanted to explore. So it was easy to kind of go back into that after I was um, a journalist.
yeah,
And I mean, I kept doing freelance for quite a while and stuff like that. And but I think to answer the question, I think definitely technical aspects, like editing and stuff like that, it changed me a lot. And I would say speed of writing, because when you go in to do um, you go into the office or whatever, and you have to have 1,500 words done by this time, and you just do it.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm pretty quick. My revision's not that quick, but my actual writing's pretty quick.
Yeah. Um, and then you released both of those books yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How many did you if you don't mind me asking, how many did you end up printing of both of them?
I think I just did 500 of each. And the first one I did with my dad's a painter and he illustrated it. And it was a joint project. And like a lot of them were sold at shows and stuff like that, and through some bookstores. And then the Oriana actually got some just distribution a little bit, but I didn't reprint it by the time. By the time I would do that, I was writing for the newspaper and stuff like that, and I found you kind of, um, I kind of wanted distance from it at the time.
Yeah.
I felt like you always feel like you could do it better in the present. Whether that's true or not is a totally different thing. But
Yeah.
I kind of just did the small run, and when I printed Oriana, it was right before I got married to my wife Erin, and we um, just kind of saved up enough money, and I went to a Ministry of Transportation booklet printing guy,
Hmm.
and he said, "I'll do it for this," and away we went.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I wanted to ask you about. Like part of what I do um, with my publishing company, and one of the things I love to always hear about it is these sort of DIY methods of kind of getting something out there. Um,
Yeah,
and you seem to be that kind of guy. I mean, you told me that story. I mean, you and your wife ran the gallery for almost a decade, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, so and this is it's Canada's a hard country.
Oh
Canada's
yeah,
it's a really hard country for the arts to make a go of things. So
yeah,
you kind of have to, in my opinion, it's like you kind of have to figure out things on your own because you know what you can pay, you know how much money you have, you know that there's not a lot of resources, right?
right.
So can you comment on that kind of ethic?
Yeah, I think I mean it's hard to break through on anything anyway, like especially when it's a smaller country and there's um and when you're very impatient.
Yeah.
And I come from a family where, visual arts, and my mom had self-published a book earlier. Um, my dad was doing his own prints for years, and um, it's just kind of like it was the solution to stuff like that. It's just um, you're basically I think it's a Billy Bragg song where he says, "Start your own revolution and cut out the middleman."
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know that one actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let me just refer to what I was my questions here. Um, yeah, there's a lot that we already talked about already. Um, so you have a couple you've been working on a couple projects recently. Um, you said you had a book of poetry
Yeah.
and then a new novel manuscript.
Short stories, yeah.
Short stories, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the poetry I've kind of always done just here and there, but I really um um I mean I do a lot of painting, as you know.
Yeah.
And there was a one point I decided I just needed a break, and I started writing again more like consistently, and that was around 2013, 14. And
Mm,
then I just kind of kept going and just kept adding to this um, small collection of poems that became a large collection of poems, and I'm still adding to them. I mean, it's a complete manuscript in a way, but it's also kind of like um, you don't know if it's ever done. It would just be if it's published, then I'd start again, right?
Yeah. I don't I I don't know how many people can ever say that themselves, that it's done.
Yeah,
I
right.
know for me, I don't know how many, like, it takes me usually takes me 10 years of rewrites before I'm ever
Yeah.
finished a novel. And
Okay. And
yeah, and I've heard the same. I've heard the same from some other people. I usually don't ask because it's always horror stories.
yeah, yeah,
Constantly
yeah,
waiting.
yeah. And that's how the rewriting process for me, like with writing especially, is like you leave it alone and you just kind of come back to it here and there, and then you're like, oh, what was that about, or what was this? And you see like glaring things that you didn't see at all when you were doing it. And
Yeah.
time is the key to that, I think. And I'm not a patient person artistically, but it forces me to be.
Yeah.
And right, like you can't get around it with writing because you just and like you said, it's never finished. Um, but at a certain point, you just are either adding on to it in a different way. Like same with novels, right? Like when you're writing a different novel, first of all, most of the characters are yourself anyway, to a
Mhm.
certain degree. And as you go on experiencing things, your characters may change who they are and this and that, but it's still you experiencing the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like it seems like the ethic for the work ethic for writing is very, very different than visual art in terms of
Yeah,
um I just speak this because I've done both for lots of years.
yeah,
And to me at least, it requires way more focus,
yeah,
way more patience, way more attention.
yeah.
And it's almost like you can't slack off at all.
Yeah, it's like I'll listen to if I'm painting, and one of the things I like about painting, like I can put on a podcast or music or this or that. And you kind of get it's a different experience, but when you're writing, you have to narrow it in a little bit, which allows you to have more, for me, um, maybe it says more about my painting, but when I write, I can be a little more specific with how I can kind of hone the words to, and again, I use images a lot, but I can just, I can express it easier, but it does take that focus.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I start, I tend to I don't know. I'm not one of those people who knows where the story is gonna go, but I have more of an idea than when I paint. I have this image and it never turns out anything close, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so do you still have any copies of those books left?
I have a handful of the first one, All Who Walk Lightly, and then um, I moved within the last few years, and I think I lost a bunch of Oriana, but I think I might be able to find some of them. I found one the other day because I wanted to. You had asked me to do the interview, and so I wanted to like look at it again because it's been a while since I really looked at that one, and so I managed to find one, so that there may be more in the garage. But
Well,
I love the
I
story how you found it, by the way.
yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing about books. You see it a little bit with visual art too, um, where they have feet of their own. They travel to
Yeah,
other places, and sometimes you're thinking like, how the hell did this end up here?
yeah,
Um, like I find pieces of art in town here that are from Haida art from the West Coast. Um,
yeah,
how the hell did that end up here? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Especially
yeah,
when they're not mass produced. The things that I find aren't mass produced pieces, right?
yeah,
Um, and your book is, I mean, you made you printed more copies than a lot of writers in Canada for a book, but it's still not a mass produced book, right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I was glad to find it, and I put your contact at the bottom of that review, and
Yeah,
if you're okay with it, if I can put it on this video when I put it up, so if people want to
yeah, of course.
contact you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Um, because yeah, people. I didn't want to reveal too much of the book. Um, but hopefully there's enough that if people want to reach out to talk to you or look for a copy, if you have it, if
Yeah,
you have a few left, then they
yeah,
will. They'll have a way to get a hold of you.
yeah, that's good. I like what you're doing, by the way. I think it's really great, and like kind of um Canadian literature needs stuff like that, and it has its identity that um is there to be found, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. Well,
Okay.
and thanks for taking the time to talk to me, Jeremy. And hopefully we'll be in touch again in the future.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much. It was fun, and take care.
All right. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, bye.
Okay. Bye.